But the great part about today is we don't have to speculate anymore. We bring in the man himself, Harold Perkins, there in Texas. And Harold, before we get the commitment, I want to ask you a very simple question. What has this process been like for you?
Enjoyable. And just like, I don't know, man. I'm just ready to make my decision.
We're ready to get your decision. Okay, I'm turning it over to you. The floor is yours. Where are you headed to play your college ball?
All right, first off, I want to thank my mama, my pops, and everybody else for coming here. And I want to thank God, too, because without him, I wouldn't be here. And nah, I ain't going to go there. I'm going back home, baby.
So Harold Perkins makes it official. He is headed to LSU. You saw the Texas A&M hat there, but it's LSU ultimately on the head. And so as the celebration happens in the background, Harold Perkins makes it official to LSU. Harold, first question here, if you can hear me, first question. What was it about LSU and Brian Kelly? He just got there. What is it about LSU that made you pull the trigger?
Everywhere Coach Kelly went, he went there and he changed the program around. And I trust in what he's doing. I trust in Coach House. I trust in what he's doing. I know Coach House can develop me.
One of your first goals when you get to LSU will be to do what?
My first goal at LSU when I get there, not to look at where I'm at in the line or in the spot. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is the first game. So my first goal as a freshman is to start and go get freshman All-American.
Hey, I want to ask you this too, Harold, because there have been a lot of people on the outside who have seen Brian Kelly come into LSU, and he's made a lot of noise. He's been in the headlines. He's had LSU out there. I want to know from your perspective, what's it been like to be recruited by Brian Kelly and his staff?
Man, good, man. Coach Kelly and his staff bring a lot of energy. I like that he interacts with his players, and that just shows a lot about his personality. I thought he was dull and dry, but he showed me different when I was up there.
Harold Perkins, man, congratulations. I know this has been a long process. You're happy to get it behind you now. So to you and the family there, start the party, go celebrate, and good luck to you in your time in Baton Rouge.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right. So I want to mention a couple of adjectives that Harold Perkins just used to describe what I'm now going to call the old Brian Kelly, dull and dry. And we were talking earlier, a couple hours ago, about how we felt like he knew he had to change something because going from Notre Dame to going to LSU is just a different recruiting world. And so, I mean, he changed some things, and some people think it looks this way, some people think it looks that way. Well, I'm just telling you, we had a five-star kid just commit to LSU, and he directly talked about how he's seen the personality change, and that appealed to him. So it doesn't really matter what Twitter thinks or what a 37-year-old dude in Vidalia, Georgia thinks. It matters what Harold Perkins thinks, and he thinks it's good enough to go to LSU.
Well, I'm getting a lot of texts about the hat he selected. I don't think it was the cleanest of hats. Looked like one that he maybe got at the gas station. So maybe he didn't know what Brian Kelly was until a few days ago. It sounds like those words are true in terms of what's going on with.
Well, to me, regarding the hat, it's obviously the one he wears the most, right? I mean, that hat, look, this is a guy that grew up in New Orleans, probably grew up a big LSU fan. And he'd been there a bunch, went there a lot in the spring, went there in the summer, got to go to his first night game in Baton Rouge during the season. And then returned this past weekend for his official visit. I know Frank Wilson had a big role in landing Harold Perkins, a one-time Texas A&M commit, and I know his Zoom session with Coach House, the new defensive coordinator, while he was away with the Kansas City Chiefs, was an eye-opener to see how he was going to be used schematically. This is a guy that just fits into any defense. He's one of the fastest front seven players in the country. We talked about Travis Hunter and his two-way ability. I mean, Harold Perkins is a top 100 running back, in my opinion, that averaged almost 18 yards a carry as a senior and scoring 18 touchdowns on just 67 carries. So anytime you handed him the ball, he was a threat to score. And then defensively, he can change direction and tackle. He can cover anybody. He'll come up and hit you. He's instinctive. He's rangy. He's obviously fast. And this is a tone-setting get for LSU moving forward. And a guy that, when you look at the recruiting class now in 2023, all those blue chip guys in 2023, they know Harold Perkins. So now their class has some pizzazz to it on that side of the ball when they're recruiting defenders. Come in and roll with Harold Perkins as we build this thing back up to the way it was a few years ago.
There's a voice in my ear right now asking me the same question that I want to ask you. So from Tully and myself to Andrew Ivins, is this a guy who can start as a freshman?
That's what I was going to say. He's probably a day one guy, I would think. I mean, in Orlando, he worked out at running back and linebacker and might have been the best running back there. And we had some other blue chipper guys there. The coaching staff was super fired up. I go to the player comp for my guy, Gabe Brooks, there in Texas. He compares him to Miles Jack. And, you know, Miles Jack was obviously a running back at UCLA, went on to play linebacker on Sundays. But, you know, when I first heard about Harold Perkins, it was someone in our recruiting group chat. They put a video of him dunking on the baseline, running down there. So he's super athletic. We talked about the speed and just how he moves. I mean, I think he's the guy that's going to play early.
4.49 in the 40-yard dash as a linebacker. He's got some Jalen Smith type vibes to him too, pre-knee injury for Jalen Smith, who starred at running back and linebacker on the prep level as well.
A lot of these highly rated guys, I mean, they're multi-position guys that you could probably project if you wanted to at a number of different places. Chris Singletary, I wanted to bring him in. He's over on the special and exclusive side studio that we haven't even been able to grace the presence of today. Hey, when you look at Harold Perkins, what kind of player do you see?
I see a playmaker and a game changer. This is a guy that's on 3 levels, can affect the game. You know, in the special teams, if he's rushing the passer on the edge, if he's playing middle backer, if he's playing wheel backer. And like Ivan said, to be honest with you, the kid could be one of the top running backs in the country. So Harold Perkins is a playmaker. He still has a lot of room to develop physically, but his athletic talent is off the charts. And it's when you watch his film, you know, and when I saw him in person, it was very easy and very natural in the way he moved, in the way it was fluid, the way he diagnosed. And his suddenness and burst to the ball was something that really, really stood out to me when I saw Harold Perkins.
So Harold Perkins, in case you're just tuning in, makes it official. He commits to LSU, and that is a big-time get. You can't overstate it. That is a big-time get for Brian Kelly. Been on the job a very short amount of time, and I think, listen, we also cannot overstate the reasons. We asked him specifically, what was it about LSU? And he said, well, you know, I thought Brian Kelly was one way at Notre Dame, and turns out he's another way.
Do you think the accent helped?
I don't think the accent hurt. That's all I'm going to say, okay? I don't think the accent hurt with Harold Perkins or his family.
But the misconception on Brian Kelly, Brian Kelly's a pretty personable guy.
Sure.
Like if you went into Notre Dame's football facility, he was one of the better living room head coaches in the country in the way that he would get his message across about why Notre Dame was the right place for a young man. He's got a great personality. He's an outgoing guy. He's sharp and he's witty and he's funny. And, you know, now I think he was stereotyped because he was at Notre Dame. But, I mean, he's a man's man. He can drink a beer with Brian Kelly.
You know what? We had him on Late Kick. I don't have a lot of guests on. I didn't have high expectations. And he was the most personable, fluid, open guy. Ended up saying, we'll go any amount of time you want to. And I came away thinking differently. And I guarantee a lot of these kids who were probably meeting him for the first time, if we're being real, I don't think Harold Perkins was talking to Notre Dame Brian Kelly. He's talking to LSU Brian Kelly. And now LSU Brian Kelly is going to coach Harold Perkins. We have got to talk about class superlatives in the Big 12, and we're going to do that as soon as we come back. Stay with us. It is the 24/7 Sports National Signing Day Show, and we roll on right after this.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.